6 months later, Jiwoo stood before the Galactic Council once again. The chamber was packed with representatives who had waited anxiously for her report. Chancellor Velkara called for order as Jiwoo approached the speaker's platform. "The investigation of the Void Reach has been completed," Jiwoo announced. "We found no evidence of human ships or activity in the Forbidden Zone." A wave of relief moved through the chamber. Several representatives made sounds of satisfaction, as if they had expected this result all along. "The rumors were false then?" asked Representative Korthane. "Spacer folklore," Jiwoo confirmed. "Stories that grew larger with each telling. Our instruments detected only the normal background radiation and automated defense systems. This was a lie, of course. The biggest lie she had ever told. But it was necessary. The truth about the Devourers, about the predecessors, about So Young's sacrifice, none of it could be shared with the Council. Not yet. Hyun-sik, the human representative, gave her a slight nod. He understood what she was doing and why. The galaxy wasn't ready for the truth about what lurked in the Void Reach. "However," Jiwoo continued, "I recommend that security around the Forbidden Zone be increased. The defense systems are old and may need reinforcement." "Of course," Chancellor Velkara agreed. "We will dispatch additional monitoring stations to the Outer Rim." As the council session ended, Jiwoo filed her official report with the Galactic Archives. It contained detailed sensor readings, star charts, and analysis of the Void Reach's defensive systems. All of it was accurate. None of it mentioned the truth. Later that evening, Jiwoo returned to the same cantina where she had first heard the whispers about the human ship. Taemin was at his usual table, entertaining a new crowd with stories from the trade routes. "The archaeologist returns," he said with a smile. "Did you find your answers?" "I found what I was looking for," Jiwoo said carefully. "And what was that?" "Proof that some legends are better left as legends." Taemin nodded sagely. "Wise words. Though I heard some interesting new stories while you were away." "What kind of stories?" "Traders coming back from the Outer Rim say the Void Reach has gone completely quiet. No energy signatures, no strange transmissions, nothing. It's like the whole region has been put to sleep." Jiwoo felt a pang of sadness. So Young was still there, maintaining the containment systems, keeping the galaxy safe. But to the outside world, she might as well not exist. "They also say," Taemin continued, "that human ships have been spotted near other forbidden zones, places where no one is supposed to go." This was news to Jiwoo. "Other zones?" "Ancient battlefields, sealed research stations, quarantine systems," Taemin listed. "Wherever there's a sign that says keep out, humans seem to show up eventually." A Nexari merchant at the next table overheard their conversation. "My cargo hauler was boarded by human customs officers last month," he said. "They were checking for predecessor artifacts. Said they were part of some new monitoring program." Jiwoo realized what was happening. Captain Kim and his remaining crew had returned to normal space and were quietly working to locate other dangerous sites. They were using their knowledge of predecessor technology to find and secure ancient threats before they could cause problems. "Humans are everywhere these days," complained a Delvian trader. "They ask too many questions and go to too many dangerous places. That's what makes them useful," said an old Thraxian captain. "If something needs to be investigated, send a human. They're too stubborn to die easily." As the conversation continued, Jiwoo listened to the legends growing around human exploration and stubbornness. The stories were becoming more elaborate with each telling. Soon they would spread across the entire galaxy. In a way, the legends served their purpose. Other species would think twice before venturing into forbidden zones if they believed humans were already there. The reputation for unpredictability and danger would keep curious explorers away from places they shouldn't go. 3 months later, Jiwoo received a coded message through her archaeological network. It was from Captain Kim, now operating under a new identity as a freelance security consultant. "The monitoring program is expanding," the message said. "We've located 6 more predecessor sites with active containment systems. All of them need human oversight to remain stable. Recruiting qualified volunteers is difficult, but we're managing." Jiwoo understood. Kim was building a secret network of human guardians, people willing to sacrifice normal lives to protect the galaxy from ancient dangers. They would work in shadows, maintaining systems that no one else could understand. The message continued. "So Young sends her regards. The master system allows limited communication, She's modified the containment grid to be even more efficient. The Devourers will remain contained for at least 10,000 years, possibly longer. This gave Jiwoo some comfort. So Young was still herself, still thinking and adapting. The integration had changed her, but it hadn't destroyed her humanity. We're also working on early warning systems, the message concluded. The threat So Young discovered is still centuries away, but when it arrives, we'll be ready. Jiwoo deleted the message after reading it twice. Some secrets were too dangerous to keep written records. Over the following years, she continued her archaeological work, but now she had a secondary mission. She searched ancient ruins for any evidence of predecessor technology or references to the coming threat. Most of what she found was fragmentary, but it helped fill in the picture of what the galaxy might face in the distant future. The whispers about human ships in forbidden places never stopped. If anything, they grew stronger. Traders told stories of human vessels appearing in the most dangerous regions of space. Military officers reported encounters with human crews operating in classified areas. Some of the stories were true, some were exaggerated, some were completely false. But all of them served the same purpose. They made humans seem even more mysterious and dangerous than before. In the cantinas and trading posts across the galaxy, people spoke of humans who could go anywhere, survive anything, and solve problems that defeated entire civilizations. The legends grew with each telling, and in the deepest, most forbidden regions of space, human guardians maintained their silent vigil. They operated systems that kept ancient horrors contained, prepared for threats that might not arrive for millennia, and paid prices that no one else could understand. The whispers had been true. There was a human ship in the Forbidden Zone, but the reality was far more complex than any legend could capture. The truth was that humans had accepted responsibility for protecting the galaxy from dangers it didn't even know existed. The legends would continue to grow, serving as both reputation and shield, and somewhere in the void reach, So Young continued her eternal watch, keeping the galaxy safe while the rest of civilization slept peacefully, never knowing how close they had come to annihilation. The whispers told of human ships in forbidden places. But the whispers couldn't tell the whole truth about what those ships were really doing there, or what their crews had sacrificed to keep the galaxy alive. The alarm started 3 hours after Jiwoo's team docked with the Defiant Dawn. Red lights flashed throughout the ancient structure as systems that had worked for centuries began to fail. The arrival of the research vessel had somehow triggered a cascade reaction in the containment grid. Kim ran through the corridors with Jiwoo and her team following close behind. His transformed crew members were already at their stations, their glowing eyes focused on displays that showed the growing crisis. "What's happening?" Jiwoo shouted over the sound of alarms. "The containment barriers are weakening," Minho reported, his strange voice echoing in the chamber. "The additional energy signature from your ship disrupted the balance we've maintained." Through the massive windows of the control room, they could see space itself beginning to change. Stars flickered and went out. New stars appeared in impossible colors. Reality was bending and twisting as the Devourers stirred in their prison. Dr. Wu Jin checked his instruments in horror. "The effects are spreading. The distortions are moving outward from this location. How far will they spread?" So Young asked. Kim's face was grim as he studied the readouts. "If we can't stabilize the containment in the next 6 hours, the cascade will reach inhabited star systems. Entire worlds will be consumed." Veltar's forehand shook as he worked his navigation console. "We should leave immediately. Get back to the council and warn them." "There's no time," Kim said firmly. "By the time a council fleet could respond, billions of beings would be dead. We have to fix this now." Minho and the other transformed humans worked desperately at the predecessor control systems. Their enhanced minds processed information at incredible speeds, but even they seemed overwhelmed by the scope of the crisis. "The primary containment nodes are failing," Minho reported. "We need someone to interface directly with the master control system." "Can you do it?" Kim asked. "No. The master system requires a different type of integration. One of us would have to merge completely with the predecessor network. They would cease to exist as an individual consciousness." Jiwoo felt sick as she realized what this meant. Someone would have to sacrifice not just their humanity, but their entire sense of self to save the galaxy. "I'll do it," Kim said without hesitation. "Captain, no," Minho protested. "We need your leadership. Your tactical knowledge, and then who? Kim demanded. We're running out of time. So Young stepped forward quietly. I'll do it. Everyone turned to look at the human engineer. She was young, barely 30 years old with her whole life ahead of her, but her expression was calm and determined. So young you don't understand what you're volunteering for, Kim warned. The integration process will destroy your individual personality. You'll become part of the machine. I understand, So Young said. I've been studying the predecessor system since we arrived. I know what needs to be done. Dr. Wu Jin moved toward her. There has to be another way. Some other solution. There isn't, So Young said simply. The master control system was designed for predecessor neural patterns. Humans can adapt to it, but only by giving up everything that makes us human. Through the windows they could see the distortions spreading faster. Entire sections of space were turning black as reality itself was consumed. The edge of the effect was moving toward the nearest inhabited system. How long do we have? Jiwoo asked. 4 hours until the cascade reaches the Kethran colonies, Minho calculated. 6 hours until it reaches the major trade routes. So Young walked to the master control interface, a massive crystalline structure that pulsed with alien energy. She placed her hands on the smooth surface and closed her eyes. Wait, Dr. Wu Jin said desperately. What if the process doesn't work? What if human consciousness isn't compatible with complete integration? Then I die, So Young said calmly. But if I don't try, everyone dies. She pressed her palms firmly against the crystal. Energy flowed through her body and she screamed as the integration began. Her nervous system was being rewritten, her brain restructured to process information the way the predecessors had. But something unexpected happened. Instead of losing herself in the alien network, So Young began to understand it in a way the predecessors never had. Her human stubbornness, her refusal to accept defeat, allowed her to maintain her core identity while gaining control over the master systems. The containment barriers are stabilizing, Minho reported with amazement. But how is this possible? So Young's voice echoed strangely as she spoke, but it was still recognizably her own. Humans don't just adapt to impossible situations. We improve them. Working through the master control system, she began to modify the containment grid itself. Instead of simply maintaining the barriers that held the devourers, she strengthened them and made them self-repairing. The prison that had required constant maintenance for centuries suddenly became stable. The cascade is stopping, Dr. Wu Jin reported. The reality distortions are pulling back toward this location. But the process was taking its toll on So Young. Her body was changing, becoming something between human and machine. Geometric patterns appeared on her skin, and her eyes began to glow with the same blue light as the other transformed crew members. So Young, can you hear me? Jiwoo called out. I can hear everything, So Young replied. Her voice now carried harmonics that seemed to come from the structure itself. I can see the patterns that hold reality together. I can feel the devourers trying to break free. Kim approached the control interface carefully. Are you still you? So Young turned to look at him, and Jiwoo was relieved to see that her expression was still recognizably human. I'm still me. But I'm also something more now. I can maintain the containment indefinitely, but I can never leave this place. We won't abandon you, Kim promised. You have to, So Young said firmly. This is my responsibility now. Take your crew and return to normal space. Let the galaxy think the Void Reach is just a dangerous mystery. Through the master control system, she had access to all the structure's sensors. She could see Jiwoo's research vessel and the space around it. She could also sense the sleeping devourers, held in check by barriers that were now stronger than ever before. The containment will hold for thousands of years, she reported. Maybe longer. I'll make sure of it. As her transformation completed, So Young became something unique in the galaxy. A human who had merged with predecessor technology without losing her essential humanity. She retained her memories, her personality, and most importantly, her stubborn refusal to give up. There's something else, she said, her voice now carrying the authority of the master system itself. I've learned what the predecessors were really trying to do. They weren't just studying the devourers. They were preparing for something worse. Worse than reality-eating entities? Dr. Wu Jin asked. The devourers were just scouts, So Young explained. There are others out there beyond the edges of known space. The predecessors built this containment system as a research station, trying to develop weapons for a war that hasn't started yet. Kim felt a chill as he realized the implications. How long do we have? Centuries, maybe millennia, So Young said. But they're coming. When they arrive, the galaxy will need to be ready. As Jiwoo prepared to leave the Forbidden Zone with this terrible knowledge, she understood that the price of protecting the galaxy was higher than anyone had imagined. It wasn't just about containing ancient threats, it was about preparing for future ones. So Young had paid the ultimate price, giving up her normal human existence to become guardian of secrets that could save or destroy galactic civilization. The question now was whether the rest of the galaxy would be strong enough to handle the truth when the time came. The docking bay inside the predecessor structure was vast and dark. Emergency lights from the defiant dawn provided the only illumination as the Seeker's hope settled into position. Jiwoo and her team prepared to board the human vessel, not knowing what they would find. Captain Dong-ho Kim met them at the airlock. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. His uniform showed signs of long wear, but he stood straight and alert. Behind him waited 11 other crew members, all looking healthy despite their months in the Forbidden Zone. "Welcome to the Void Reach," Kim said with a slight smile. "I assume the Council sent you to drag us home?" "The Council is worried," Jiwoo admitted. "They want to know what you've been doing here." Kim's expression grew serious. "What we've been doing is saving the galaxy, though I doubt they'll thank us for it." He led them through the ship to a conference room filled with charts, data displays, and equipment that looked both human and alien. The walls showed detailed maps of the Void Reach and the ancient structure they were docked with. "This place isn't what the Council thinks it is," Kim explained. "They believe it's a quarantine zone, keeping dangerous things locked away from the rest of the galaxy." "They're half right." So Young studied the alien equipment with fascination. "This technology is incredible. How did you learn to operate it?" "Trial and error," Kim said. "Mostly error. We lost 3 crew members in the first month learning how things work here." Dr. Wu Jin looked concerned. "Lost how?" "Not dead," Kim clarified quickly. "Changed. The predecessor technology affects human minds in strange ways. 3 of my people volunteered to interface directly with the control systems. The process transformed them. But they're still alive, still helping us." Kim activated a display showing the interior of the massive structure. Jiwoo gasped as she saw the true size of it. The structure contained thousands of chambers, each one filled with equipment that defied understanding. "The predecessors built this as a containment system," Kim continued, "but not just to keep things locked up. They were studying what they had captured, learning from it." "What did they capture?" Jiwoo asked, though she feared the answer. Kim's face grew grim. "Entities that exist partially outside normal spacetime. Beings that feed on reality itself rather than matter or energy. The predecessors called them the Devourers." Veltar's forearms moved nervously. "The Devourer War. We learned about it in school. Those creatures nearly destroyed galactic civilization." "Not nearly," Kim corrected. "They did destroy 3 entire civilizations. The survivors built this containment system to trap the remaining Devourers before they could finish the job." So Young was examining readouts from the alien equipment. "These power levels are enormous. What kind of energy does it take to contain beings like that?" "The kind that's been slowly failing for the past 50 years, Kim said. "The containment system requires constant maintenance. The predecessors designed it to be operated by their species, but they disappeared long ago. The automated systems have been breaking down piece by piece." Jiwoo felt a chill of fear. "You mean the Devourers could break free?" "They were going to break free within the next 10 years, Kim said. "Our computer models showed cascade failures throughout the containment grid. The Council's monitoring stations would have detected the breach too late to stop it." Dr. Wu Jin leaned forward in his chair. "How do you know all this?" "Because we learned to read predecessor data files," Kim explained. "It took months of work, and it cost us 3 crew members who volunteered to undergo mental modification. But we finally understood what this place really is." Kim activated another display, showing energy patterns throughout the structure. The predecessors weren't just trying to contain the Devourers. They were trying to understand them. To learn how reality-eating entities function. "Why?" So Young asked. "Because they thought they could harness that power," Kim said. "They believed they could use the Devourers' abilities to reshape reality according to their will. They were trying to become gods." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. The predecessors had been considered the wisest civilization in galactic history. The idea that they had tried to weaponize cosmic horror was terrifying. What happened to them? Veltar asked quietly. They succeeded, Kim said simply, and it destroyed them. The process of controlling the Devourers transformed the predecessors into something that was no longer really alive. They became part of the containment system itself. Jiwoo looked at the displays showing the vast structure around them. You mean the predecessors are still here? In a sense, Kim nodded. Their consciousness merged with the control systems. They've been maintaining the containment for thousands of years, slowly losing themselves in the process. Minho, Kim's first officer, entered the conference room. Jiwoo was shocked by his appearance. His eyes glowed with a faint blue light, and geometric patterns seemed to move beneath his skin. He was still recognizably human, but also something more. The integration is complete, Minho reported in a voice that echoed strangely. The human neural patterns are compatible with predecessor technology. We can stabilize the containment grid. Kim turned to Jiwoo's team. This is what I mean about saving the galaxy. Humans are the only species that can operate predecessor technology without going completely insane. Our minds are flexible enough to adapt to their reality-bending systems. But at what cost? Dr. Wu Jin asked, staring at Minho. At the cost of remaining completely human, Kim admitted. The integration process changes us. We retain our memories and personalities, but we perceive reality in ways that allow us to maintain systems that would drive normal minds to madness. So Young was studying data from the containment systems. How many crew members have undergone this transformation? 4 so far, Kim said. All volunteers. All necessary to keep the containment stable while we develop better solutions. Better solutions? Jiwoo asked. Kim smiled for the first time since they had arrived. Humans don't just adapt to impossible situations. We find ways to improve them. We've been modifying the predecessor systems, making them more efficient and easier to maintain. Minho nodded, his strange eyes focusing on something the others couldn't see. The new control matrix requires only monthly maintenance instead of constant supervision. We can keep the Devourers contained without losing more crew members to full integration. For how long? Veltar asked. Forever if necessary, Kim said firmly. That's what humans do. We take responsibility for problems that no one else can solve. Jiwoo realized the full scope of what Kim and his crew had accomplished. They had not just entered the Forbidden Zone and survived. They had taken on the burden of protecting the entire galaxy from an ancient threat. The Council needs to know about this, she said. Kim shook his head. The Council would panic. They'd try to send military fleets or scientific expeditions. They'd interfere with systems they don't understand and make everything worse. Then what do you want us to tell them? Tell them the rumors were false, Kim said. Tell them no human ship entered the Void Reach. Let the legends grow, but keep the truth secret. Why? Because fear of humans serves a purpose now, Kim explained. If other species believe we can go anywhere and do anything, they'll stay away from this place. The legend protects the galaxy better than the truth ever could. As Jiwoo prepared to return to her ship with this impossible knowledge, she wondered if she could really keep such a massive secret. The fate of galactic civilization rested on 12 humans and their willingness to sacrifice their humanity for the greater good. The whispers had been true. There was a human ship in the Forbidden Zone, but the reality was far more complex and dangerous than any legend could capture. The research vessel Seeker's Hope moved slowly through space toward the outer rim. Jiwoo stood on the bridge, watching the stars grow dimmer as they traveled away from the galactic center. Soon they would reach the Void Reach and everything would change. Her crew was small but skilled. So Young, the human engineer, worked constantly to modify their ship's systems. She understood human technology better than anyone else on the team. If they found the Defiant Dawn, So Young would know how to communicate with them. Veltar, the Nexari navigator, plotted courses through space that other pilots called impossible. His 4 hands danced across the controls, calculating routes that avoided patrol ships and monitoring stations. The Council had given them permission for this mission, but they still needed to be careful. Dr. Wu Jin, the xenobiologist, spent his time studying reports about the Void Reach. He wanted to understand what effects the Forbidden Zone might have on living beings. The old records spoke of madness and physical changes. He hoped to be ready for anything they might encounter. We're approaching the outer warning beacons, Veltar announced. Should I reduce speed? Jiwoo nodded. Take us in slowly. I want to see everything. On the main screen, the first warning beacon appeared. It was ancient, built by the predecessors centuries ago. The metal was dark and strange, formed into shapes that hurt to look at directly. Red lights blinked in patterns that seemed to have meaning, but no one could read that meaning anymore. Recording all signals, So Young reported from her station. The beacon is broadcasting in 12 different languages. All dead languages, what do they say? Jiwoo asked. The same thing in every language, Dr. Wu Jin said, reading from his translator. Danger, death, do not enter. Turn back while you still can. More beacons appeared as they moved deeper toward the forbidden zone. Each one broadcast the same warnings. Each one reminded them that countless expeditions had tried to enter this place. None had returned, but as they got closer to the void reach itself, their instruments detected something new. I'm picking up human energy signatures, So Young said, her voice excited. Very faint, but definitely human technology. From where? Jiwoo asked. So Young pointed at the main screen. Deep inside the forbidden zone. At least 2 days' travel from the outer edge. Veltar's four hands moved nervously over his controls. That's impossible. Nothing can travel that deep into the void reach and survive. Humans can survive many things, Dr. Wu Jin said quietly. That's what makes them dangerous. As they approached the actual boundary of the void reach, their ship's sensors began to detect the defense systems. Ancient weapons platforms hung in space like sleeping giants. Each one was larger than their entire ship. Each one had power levels that could destroy a small moon. The platforms are active, Veltar reported, but their energy output is much lower than expected. How much lower? Jiwoo asked. 70% below normal levels, So Young said, checking her readings. Something has definitely been affecting them. Jiwoo made a decision. Take us across the boundary, but be ready to retreat if the defenses activate. The Seeker's Hope moved forward slowly. As they crossed into the void reach, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. The defense platforms detected their presence and began to power up their weapons, but the attack that came was weaker than expected. The energy beams that struck their shields should have destroyed them instantly. Instead, their ship merely shook and their shield generators complained loudly. The platforms are definitely operating at reduced capacity, So Young confirmed. It's like someone has been disabling them from the inside. As they traveled deeper into the forbidden zone, they began to see why the void reach was so dangerous. Space itself seemed wrong here. Stars appeared in impossible colors. Gravity worked in ways that made no sense. Their instruments gave readings that contradicted each other. Dr. Wu Jin monitored the crew for signs of mental stress. The old records warned that exposure to the void reach could drive people insane. But so far, everyone seemed to be handling the strange environment well. Look at this, Veltar said, pointing at his navigation display. There are clear paths through the worst anomalies. Someone has marked safe routes through the dangerous areas. Jiwoo studied the navigation data. The paths were recent, marked with human-style route markers. Someone had spent weeks or months mapping safe passage through the void reach. Follow the marked routes, she ordered. Let's see where they lead. As they followed the paths, they began to encounter wreckage from the ancient Devourer War. Massive ship hulks floated in space, twisted into shapes that should not exist. Some of the wreckage seemed to be moving even though it had no power. Other pieces appeared and disappeared as they watched. The physics here don't work properly, Dr. Wu Jin observed. Reality itself has been damaged by whatever happened during the war. But scattered among the ancient wreckage, they found signs of recent activity. Emergency supply caches marked with human symbols. Temporary shelters built from salvaged materials. Communication relays that boosted signals across impossible distances. Someone has been living here, So Young said with amazement. Not just surviving, but actually establishing a base of operations. The marked paths led them to a massive structure floating in the deepest part of the void reach. It was clearly built by the predecessors, but it was unlike anything in the historical records. The structure was enormous, larger than a space station, but it seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. I'm detecting a human ship docked with that structure, Veltar reported. Energy signature matches the Defiant Dawn. Jiwoo felt her heart race. They had found the legendary human ship. It was real. The whispers and rumors had been true. Are there life signs? She asked. So Young worked at her controls for several minutes before answering. Yes, definitely human life signs. At least 12 people, possibly more. They're alive, Dr. Wu Jin said with wonder. After 6 months in the most dangerous place in the galaxy, they're alive. As the Seeker's Hope approached the ancient structure, Ji Woo wondered what they would find when they met Captain Kim and his crew. What had they discovered in the Void Reach? How had they survived when so many others had died? And most importantly, what had they done to the defense systems? What changes had they made that allowed them to live in this impossible place? The answers were waiting for them inside the predecessor structure. Soon the whispers would become truth, and the truth might be more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The Galactic Council chambers were filled with worried voices. Representatives from dozens of worlds sat in their assigned seats, speaking in many different languages. The translation devices worked hard to keep up with all the conversations happening at once. Hyun-sik stood at the center of it all, waiting for his turn to speak. As one of the few humans in the galactic government, he often found himself explaining his species to confused aliens. Today would be no different. Chancellor Velkara, a tall Nixari with silver skin, called for order. Her forearms moved in formal gestures as she spoke. We are here to discuss the reports from the Outer Rim. Reports about human activity in the Void Reach. A wave of concern moved through the chamber. The Void Reach was not a topic the Council liked to discuss. It was their greatest secret and their biggest fear. The intelligence networks have confirmed the rumors, Chancellor Velkara continued. A human vessel called the Defiant Dawn was last tracked heading toward the Forbidden Zone. The ship has been missing for 6 months. Representative Korthane, an elderly Delvian, stood up slowly. With respect, Chancellor, human ships go missing all the time. They take foolish risks. This is not news. It is news when they take risks with the Void Reach, Velkara replied firmly. Our monitoring stations report unusual activity in that region. The automated defense systems have reduced their activity by 70%. This caused excited talking throughout the chamber. The defense systems around the Void Reach had been running at full power for 3 centuries. They were designed to destroy anything that tried to enter the Forbidden Zone. Hyun-sik knew what the other representatives were thinking. If the defenses were weakening, it could mean disaster for the entire galaxy. Tell us about this human ship, demanded Representative Zixmal, a warrior from the Corvan Empire, who authorized its mission. Hyun-sik stepped forward. Captain Dong-ho Kim filed a research permit 6 months ago. The permit was denied immediately. Our records show he disagreed with the decision. Disagreed how? Asked Chancellor Velkara. He called the council cowards, Hyun-sik said simply. He said the galaxy deserved to know what was really in the Void Reach. Several aliens made sounds of anger. The Corvan representative slammed his fist on his desk. Typical human arrogance. They think they know better than 3 centuries of careful policy. Hyun-sik remained calm. He had learned long ago that getting emotional only made things worse when dealing with other species. Captain Kim is a former military officer. He has experience with dangerous missions. No one has experience with the Void Reach, said Representative Malgren, a cautious Vorthan. That's why we sealed it. That's why we've kept it sealed. The chamber fell quiet as everyone remembered the old stories. The Devourer War had nearly ended galactic civilization. Entire star systems had been consumed by enemies that existed outside normal space and time. The survivors had built the containment systems around the Void Reach to keep those enemies locked away. If humans have breached the containment, said the Delvian representative, we must assume the worst. We must prepare for another war. Wait, Hyun-sik said quickly. We don't know what happened yet. The reports could be wrong. The ship might have been destroyed trying to enter the zone. Then why have the defense systems reduced their activity? Asked Chancellor Velkara. What could cause that except someone tampering with them from inside? Hyun-sik had been asking himself the same question. The defense systems were designed by the predecessors, an ancient civilization that had disappeared long before the current galactic community existed. No one understood how the systems really worked. They only knew that the systems had kept the Void Reach sealed for centuries. I propose we send a military fleet to investigate, said the Corvan representative. We must know what the humans have done. A fleet would be detected, Hyun-sik warned. If Captain Kim and his crew are still alive, they might see a military approach as hostile. Humans don't respond well to threats. Then what do you suggest? Chancellor Velkara asked. Hyun-sik had been thinking about this since the intelligence reports first arrived. Hunting humans was never easy. They were unpredictable and resourceful. They found ways to disappear when they wanted to disappear. Send a small research team, he said, non-military, led by someone the human captain might trust. Trust? The Corvin representative laughed. Why would we care about trust? This human has violated our most important law. Because if he's still alive in the Void Reach, Hyun-sik explained, he might have information we need. Information about what's really happening inside the Forbidden Zone. The chamber grew quiet again. Everyone understood what Hyun-sik was suggesting. If the defense systems were failing, they needed to know why. They needed to know if the ancient enemies were stirring again. Who would lead this research team? Asked Chancellor Velkara. Ji-woo, the archaeologist, Hyun-sik said. She's been studying predecessor technology. She knows more about the Void Reach than most council members. Representative Korthane objected immediately. She's young and inexperienced. This mission requires someone with more authority. It requires someone who understands humans, Hyun-sik corrected. Ji-woo has spent years studying human exploration patterns. She knows how they think. Very well, Chancellor Velkara decided after a moment. We will authorize a small research mission, but with strict limits. If the team encounters any sign of containment breach, they will withdraw immediately. And if they find the human ship? Asked the Delvian representative. Then we will finally know if the whispers are true, Hyun-sik said. As the council session ended, representatives filed out of the chamber in small groups. Many of them were clearly worried. The Void Reach had been their deepest fear for generations. The idea that humans might have disturbed it was terrifying, but Hyun-sik had a different fear. He was afraid that Captain Kim and his crew had found something in the Forbidden Zone. Something that might change everything the galaxy thought it knew about the ancient enemies. Humans had a gift for surviving impossible situations. They also had a gift for making impossible situations even more complicated. As he walked through the corridors of the council building, Hyun-sik wondered what kind of situation they would find when the research team reached the Void Reach. Would they find wreckage? Would they find nothing at all? Or would they find something that proved the legends about human stubbornness were more dangerous than anyone had imagined? The smoke was thick in the cantina. Strange smells from a dozen different worlds mixed together in the air. Taemin sat at his usual table in the corner watching the crowd through tired eyes. The old Vorthon smuggler had seen many things in his long life. His gray skin showed scars from battles and accidents across the galaxy. Tonight was different, though. More people than usual had gathered to hear stories. Word had spread that Taemin had news from the Outer Rim, news about humans. Tell us about the ship, called out a young Catherine from across the room. Her blue skin glowed softly in the dim light. This was Ji-woo, an archaeologist who spent her time digging through old ruins and dead civilizations. Taemin took a long drink from his cup. The liquid burned his throat, but it helped him remember the details. I heard it from 3 different traders, he said slowly. All coming from different routes. All telling the same story. The cantina grew quiet. Even the music from the back room seemed to fade away. They say there's a human ship in the Void Reach, Taemin continued. A ship called the Defiant Dawn. Several aliens made sounds of disbelief. One even laughed out loud. The Void Reach was forbidden. Had been forbidden for 300 years. Nothing went in there. Nothing came out. Impossible, said a Nexari trader. His forearms moved nervously as he spoke. The council sealed that place for good reason. The defense systems would destroy any ship that tried to enter. Taemin nodded. That's what everyone says. But humans don't listen to what everyone says. Ji-woo leaned forward in her chair. She had studied humans in her work. They were strange compared to other species. They did things that made no sense. They went places they should not go. They survived things that should kill them. What else did the traders tell you? She asked. Strange energy readings, Taemin said. Human energy signatures deep inside the Forbidden Zone. And transmissions. Old Earth language, they said. Very old. A Delvian merchant shook his head. Traders see many things when they spend too long in space. Their minds play tricks on them. Maybe, Taemin agreed. But all 3 traders said the same thing. They said the Void Reach has gone quiet. This made everyone pause. The Void Reach was not supposed to be quiet. It was supposed to be full of automated warnings and defense systems. It had been broadcasting danger signals for centuries. What do you mean, quiet? Ji-woo asked. The old warning beacons still work, Taemin explained. But everything else has stopped. No more random energy bursts. No more strange signals from inside. It's like something switched off the lights. An old Thraxian captain spoke up from the bar. I knew humans during the border wars, he said. Crazy fighters. They would charge into battles they could not win. Most of the time they found a way to win anyway. Others in the cantina nodded. Everyone had heard stories about humans in combat. They were not the strongest species or the smartest or the fastest. But they never gave up. They found ways to do impossible things. My grandfather fought alongside human soldiers, said another alien. He said they were afraid of nothing, even when they should be afraid. Jiwoo had read about this in her studies. Human psychology was different from other species. Where most aliens would see danger and run, humans would see danger and get curious. They wanted to know what was behind the danger. How long ago did this ship enter the Void Reach? She asked. Taemin thought for a moment. The traders weren't sure. Maybe 6 months. Maybe longer. Time works strangely out there on the rim. 6 months, Jiwoo repeated quietly. If a human ship had really entered the Void Reach 6 months ago, and the zone had gone quiet since then, what did that mean? What had the humans done in there? There are other stories too, Taemin continued. Some traders say they've picked up human distress signals from inside the zone. But when rescue ships try to investigate, they can't get through the defenses. Or maybe they don't want to get through, said the Nixari trader. Maybe they're smart enough to stay away. Humans don't stay away from anything, the Thraxian captain said. That's what makes them dangerous. They go where no one else will go. Jiwoo sat back in her chair thinking. In her archaeological work, she had found ruins of civilizations that tried to explore the Void Reach long ago. All of them had failed. All of them had died. The few records that survived spoke of things that could not be understood. Things that broke the mind just by being seen. But humans were different. Their minds worked in strange ways. Maybe they could survive things that would destroy other species. Has anyone reported seeing this ship come out of the zone? She asked. Taemin shook his head. Nothing comes out of the Void Reach, you know that. But if humans really are in there, Jiwoo said slowly, and if they're still alive after 6 months. She didn't finish the thought. Everyone in the cantina understood. If humans could survive in the Void Reach, it would change everything. It would prove that they really were as dangerous and unpredictable as everyone said. The conversation continued late into the night. Some people told other stories about human ships and human crews doing impossible things. Others argued that the whole story was just spacer folklore, tales that grew bigger with each telling. But Jiwoo kept thinking about the archaeological evidence she had studied. The Void Reach had been sealed because something terrible lived there. Something that had nearly destroyed 3 entire civilizations during the ancient wars. If humans had really found a way inside, what were they doing there? Were they exploring, fighting, or had they discovered something that changed the nature of the Forbidden Zone itself? As the cantina began to empty, Jiwoo made a decision. She had to know the truth. Her archaeological training had taught her to investigate mysteries, not ignore them. And this was the biggest mystery she had ever heard. She would find a way to learn more about the human ship in the Void Reach. Even if it meant going to the Forbidden Zone herself, the whispers would continue to spread across the galaxy. But Jiwoo wanted facts, not stories. She wanted to know if the legend was real,